9 siblings of a padre, Anglican padre, the Reverend Saulo Okello Majali. And my mother was an evangelist social worker, Teresa Were. One of those early Kutendereza groups from Samia Bugwe. She crossed to come to Kenya to get a family. And here we are. I started from there. I grew up just like any ordinary rural girl in a rural setting, climbing trees to eat fruit, hunting squirrels to augment family supply of protein, but more importantly, in a very strict, disciplined, structured missionary family. So I broke with the traditions in a very early life and decided to go to school because my dad and mom, both of them at that time were educated, could read and write. My mother could read and write. My father was a reverend, so she knew what to do with the girls and boys. He had no gender leanings. All of us were sent to school. So from early times, my education trajectory had been set. I started schooling at Sigalame Primary School. Today is a boys' secondary school, high school. Many of us have gone through that school. And from there, in those days, at the tender age of 9 years old, I left Sigalame to trek to Butere, which is like 70 kilometers away, to go and sit elementary examination, because we didn't have intermediate school. As intermediate meaning after class 4, you had to go to class 5, 6, and then sit the preliminary examination, which is equal to CPE these days. That we didn't have in Busia, so we had to go to Kakamega. So at the tender age of 9, I trekked to Butere to sit that examination, and I passed. And that's now started my movement up the ladder of education. Because after my primary education examination, I happened to have passed well and was picked from Western Province as the best girl student to join Form 1 at a new school being set up for girls in Kenya, African girls in Kenya, and that's the today Alliance Girls High School. So 8 of us, one from every region of Kenya, were selected to start Form 1, the best performers. So we came to Alliance Girls High School, then called African Girls High School. And we embarked on Form 1, Form 2, Form 3, Form 4. That is next to Alliance High School, as you know, across the valley. At the newly established Girls High School, we didn't have all the facilities. We didn't have laboratories, so we had to cross the valley to join the boys at Alliance High School to do science subjects and anything that required using a laboratory or even a workshop. So I was at Alliance at the Girls High School for 4 years. After the first 2 years, that was now during the freedom fighters for our independence. Things got a little rough in that area because it was like a battlefield for the freedom fighters against the colonialists. So we shifted from there to Machakos and in tents overnight, and we picked tents on the top of Machakos hills. It was quite an experience, a very difficult one for little girls who have just come from Samia to Kikuyu and then on to Machakos, out there in the bush. But we managed. We braved it. Life was rough all around. we knew what our elders were doing. They were fighting for independence, which we knew we didn't have even at that age. So we were patient. After 2 years, we were called back to come to our campus at the African Girls High School. We sat the junior secondary examination and continued Form 3 and Form 4. And we sat the Cambridge School Certificate. After Cambridge School Certificate, we had to choose where to go. Opportunities were not as many as they are today. So most of us went to Makerere for education, and those who had passed well in sciences went to Makerere to do agriculture, veterinary medicine, or became doctors. While we were going through our Form 4, Ministry of Education sent their staff around to sensitize us on opportunities that were now opening up for students in Kenya. And they talked about technical education. So to many of us, technical education didn't mean very much. To me, it sounded like something I knew a little about. Because while I was in Form 4, and our school used to participate in games, football in particular, and we played against Mangu High School. So I also discovered some of our people from Busia were at Mangu. I discovered that Hilary Mweno was at Mangu. Hilary Ojiambo was at Mangu. And those were from our area. And these were scientists. My interest was in science, even as though we were finishing Form 4, and we didn't even have laboratories at Alliance.
And even as you're recalling how it was then, there was a time where you were serving as a teacher, and I think this was before now joining the Royal Technical College.
True, you are right.
Yes.
Because at that time, just like it is today, after Form 4, after O level, students didn't go directly to colleges. You had to wait for almost a year. For us at that time in this country, there were very few of us students reaching that level. Mm-hmm. So whenever any of us reached that level, you were considered an adult, and you were considered very well educated. For us, the 8 of us were like stars in Kenya. We were leaders. We were educators. So the Ministry of Education posted me to go and teach as an untrained teacher. We call them UT. I was actually given 2 opportunities. One, I went then to train and qualify teachers who had come for refresher courses and needed to upgrade from P4 to P3 at the then Women Teacher Training College, and that was in Vihiga. Eventually it moved to Maseno to become part of River Teacher Training College, which has now become the Maseno University. So as part of that team that initially brought up the institution that has grown into that university. But then after we moved, and we still had some more time at hand before the Royal Technical College started, because we were starting from nothing. They are putting up these buildings and recruiting teachers, and therefore that took a little longer than just a year. Again, the Ministry of Education posted me to Kamusinga. And now this time I went to teach science. I went to teach agriculture, and there I had opportunity to use my biology and chemistry in laboratories. So I taught. I did indeed teach before I joined the Royal Technical College.
And now it's interesting because you were a student, but you became a teacher, even though untrained, but you're still continuing on to be a student at the Royal Technical College. And I believe it was to study economics, home economics.
Yes.
And so how was it like being a pioneer student at that point in time?
It was very exciting. But then again, did we know we were pioneer students? We knew it was a challenge. It was a challenge that we were prepared to take on. We had no other option, and particularly those like me, I had an interest in continuing education and following the footsteps of my cousins, the Hillary Mwenos. And because I had already set my mind on also becoming a scientist, so I had to wait. So when doors opened and I heard that the Royal Technical College had actually admitted me and I was on the list of students going to start, I made sure on the first day I was on the front row, and we ran to get through that arc between the engineering wing and the administration wing of the Royal College then. Early on a morning in April, I think it was April 26th, I ran from town to be here first and be the first African student to step on that ground. So it was very challenging. It was a very exciting moment for me, but it was very important in my life because now I had reached where I wanted to be, to continue to improve on my science knowledge and also pick up on education, because we were just not doing home economics as it were. We are doing, first of all, a teacher certificate to be able to teach the home science subjects. So you had to qualify in teacher education and therefore be allowed to go and teach those subjects. So we did both concurrently.
And no wonder then the gravitas towards the sciences was now getting you on that path. And you got a chance to study community and public health. So what are these opportunities that the scholarships open up to you, in addition to being the first African woman to become an assistant lecturer at the University of Nairobi?
It was all preparatory stages. After I qualified with my diploma in education, teaching home science subjects, I was posted to Butere Girls High School, and I went to continue to teach biology and home sciences. While there, I did a lot of village visits. I was very inquisitive. I was curious about what was happening. I had also, through my own exploration with the Ministry of Health, and learned that there was a lot of protein calorie malnutrition. At that time it's called kwashiorkor. We don't hear much about it these days, but it was rampant in East Africa. So with my home science knowledge, skills, I picked on that as an entry point. Little did I know it was an entry point. I thought it was an interest. And it was an interest that I had skills in. So I went to help to prepare food for children with kwashiorkor at hospitals. For me again, as God would have it, I got married. And I got married to a physician who was working at Mulago Hospital at Makerere University at the same time. So we moved to Kampala. And then I joined the team of pediatricians who are taking care of hundreds of those malnourished children. And my skills just opened up. My field was open to me. The laboratories were open to me. I got tutorship from these very experienced professors in pediatrics, and I had the material to work upon. So I invented a biscuit from the rich foods around, groundnuts, millets, wimbi, and I did my own recipe and we put together with the milk. UNICEF then used supply dry skim milk. We put together a recipe, and we used that to cure kwashiorkor.
And your PhD was a first for the School of Medicine. And the story is that you were to study abroad?
Yes, I did. So I studied abroad because from Makerere, from that experience, I continued to also do a lot of research on my own. And I was writing scientific papers even at that time because I was accumulating knowledge on maternal health and early childhood health, on expectant mothers and lactating mothers. And that was knowledge needed at that time, skills needed, information required. It was very important. So from there, I got an admission to London University, and the United Nations offered me a fellowship. UNICEF, FAO offered me a fellowship, a very good fellowship, to take me to London. So I went to London to do a diploma, a further diploma in now in public health nutrition. Now I got into public health proper because now I had opportunity to sit in a class with the medical students, preclinical students, and pick up more of real scientific skills towards that are useful in enhancing my skills in public health. I had opportunity to train at the London School of Tropical Medicine, and that's where public health in Britain is domiciled.
And indeed, then, when you look at then in that area of public health and nutrition in Kenya, what would you briefly say are the developments since then to date, milestones that you can?
A lot has taken place, because since then I came back. I did not stop at that. I continued because I again came back and was employed, like you said, as assistant lecturer at the University of Nairobi. I did not end at that. I was in the laboratories. I was in the field. I was teaching preclinical students. I was teaching post-basic nurses, that's the postgraduate nurses, and went on further on to gain admission to Harvard University to do my Masters of Science in Public Health Nutrition. And that armed me properly to come back and see what's happening. I was at that time the only Kenyan talking about nutrition, and nobody knew about nutrition here. So it was not easy even to have me accepted to work. When I came back, now as a lecturer, back in the Faculty of Education, it was difficult to translate those skills because they were highly advanced and useful in the field, but maybe not in the classroom because we were still doing home sciences, home economics. So we started teaching nutrition as part of domestic science. Others called domestic science, at the institution called it home economics, others called home science. And we expanded into other institutions. It became relevant that then our students be attached to clinics, to hospitals, to institutions of education, to community health service givers, and public health became an important aspect of nutrition training. So we have expanded since to not only in the classroom, but to schools, to churches, to community groups. But you can also see the challenges that the modern society life has brought around. Public health nutrition is no longer to ourselves. It's no longer based on those who went to school. Even now at family level,
Yes.
Kenyans are talking about nutrition. Kenyans are so concerned about public health. COVID has come around and awakened us up. People have come to realize that what we in the past thought was a preserve of medical knowledge, it's now a knowledge that must be acquired at every level.
It has been a pleasure listening to Professor Julia Ojiambo tell us about her life in the academia in this edition of Living Legends. That is the first part of the conversation, and next week we hear her speak about getting elected to Parliament, getting appointed as an assistant minister, and serving the community. Thank you for watching. I'm Edmund Mudibo.
Ngemi FM 103.5.
In the name of Jesus Christ, Mungu anatarajia ukanyange hatua mbele. Wengine wametawaliwa na uchawi, wakati wao umefika. Wewe umenitazama siku ya leo. Neema na kibali cha Bwana kikawe juu ya maisha yako.
What am I forgetting? Nini? Workers paid. Rent checked. Mlango locked. Visiting addresses. Ngoza mzazi nilitoa jana la internet zote. What is it? What am I forgetting?
Nini? Nimesahau kucheza Loto Moto.
Usisahau kucheza Loto Moto. Unaweza shinda hadi milioni 2 kwenye M-Pesa. Chagua lipa na M-Pesa. Paybill number weka 757070. Account number weka neno Loto. Weka kiwango chochote cha pesa kuanzia shilingi 50 hadi 2000. Lipa kisha subiri draw. Ujumbe huu umeidhinishwa na BCLP.
Matériel est saté, baminga ma bami spécial avant mon